What's up, guys? Drew here, also known as Healthy Assets, member of the one and only Wealth Group. And today I got with me a very special guest, one of the first 10 members to the OG Wealth Group sign up. I got the one, the only Rego the Trader. Today, we're going to dive into his story, some of his insights, and where he got to where he is in the Wealth Group. What's up, Rigo? How you doing today?
Not bad, Drew. How are you?
Good, bro. Just enjoying this weather. October season's in swing. I'm hoping for a bigger October, but we'll see what we get.
One step at a time, right?
That's it, bro. What's going on with you?
Not much, not much. Same old. It's we're expecting a bit more for October, but realistically, nothing too much out of the ordinary, right? So we take it day by day, and aside from that, things are great.
Yeah, I feel like you've always preached that, like day by day, don't get too excited, don't jump it, don't rush it, don't kind of count your eggs before they hatch, and let's just see how everything plans out. All right, so let's dive into it because I know I've always been curious. I know a lot of our followers have. You've been all over Twitch. You've done a lot of streams. You're new. You're not new to this. Can you tell us a little bit about your backstory? Like, what were you doing prior to crypto? What lured you in, and when did you become like the BTC guy?
All right, so I guess my story is not that not that inspiring, in the sense that finance was never an interest of mine, or anything of the sort related to any sort of stocks or any sort of like asset investment, or whatever you want to call it. My background is formerly in music, right? So I started off with music when I was a young adult, between 18 excuse me, 18 to 21. Um, Ultimately decided that wasn't for me. Then stuck with some odd jobs. No career path whatsoever. Career based occupation, which was more of like a sales executive, right? And I was selling business to business coffee, which again has nothing to do with finance or anything sort of in that field, right? But that's really my backstory. But before getting introduced to Bitcoin from a friend, I had no prior experience or any fascination really with money management, or understanding money and how it works. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to my background, that's really what it is. But since then, 10 years have passed, or nearly 10 years have passed, where my life has been pretty much all this now. But yeah, that's that's really
I
the
mean,
back.
bro, I've been so a lot of everyone like starting to realize like I've been a really close, in real life friend to John forever. And I remember, Rego the Trader literally from like day one. So like I've seen your progression over the last, 10 years or so where we're coming up on like year 10 or, we've known each other for 7+ years, plenty of conversations,
Mhm.
met you in person. So it is kind of amazing to kind of see like how you guys have still connected, stayed the same, so strong, and how you really like stuck with Bitcoin, following the group since the very beginning.
Mhm.
It's pretty interesting though. You had a music background prior to this. I mean, you kind of can almost say, chart patterns and notes, and there's some resemblance there. You got to be able to understand what you're seeing on the notes and the music and reading that when then you're reading charts. So maybe there's something there. Maybe you were programming yourself to pick up the trends early on. Um, all right, all right. So then, like, how did you come? So you say your friend introduced you to Bitcoin, right? Now,
Yeah.
was this person heavy into it, or did they just tell you about it, or how'd that come about?
So that's the thing, right? The story is interesting because the first day I was introduced to Bitcoin was actually on like my front steps of my parents' house. And this friend that introduced me, we go way back, since we were 4 years old. And we took two different paths in life, right? One was obsessed with finance and banking, had a job as a teller or something like that. Got introduced to money management, right? And the older we got, this is around 21, 22 years old now. The older we got, right? Naturally, I wanted to make more money. I felt like I was always stuck in the same spot. I mean, I had at the time a good start to a career, right? But he was making all this money, and he was driving a BMW and all this, and naturally that piqued my interest. Said, what are you really doing? And the main things he told me is like, well, I take my money and I invest it, but at the same time, I spend a lot of my time reading and looking for new avenues and ways to do this, and that's really how it all started. So he told me, he's like, oh, have you ever heard something about Bitcoin? I'm like, I've heard of this. in the past we've heard about it, from playing video games and being able to buy gold via it, and sometimes lurking on the dark web. Everybody visited that famous site Silk Road once in their life, right? So the currency was Bitcoin. You were like, what the fuck is this, right? Excuse my language. So he finally introduced it to me, and the main, especially in 2016, right? The whole getting introduced to it, the consensus or the main understanding of it was that, oh, this is too complicated to get into it, right? And I was arguing back and forth with him. I'm like, oh, isn't that complicated to get involved? He's like, no, no, no. He's so simple. Look, download this app and I'll send you some right now. And that's what kickstarted really my fascination with it. And I, when I found out how easy it was, I kind of just decided I want to learn more about it. And the more I learned about it, the more I had like an epiphany, I guess is the word. It just, money was never really understood to me or my family in the past, and for the most part of our lives, it was seen as a burden. But Bitcoin put it in a way for me to kind of understand it all really. And my first thought was that it solved everything. And from that very moment on, I kind of adopted what my friend did, and I took an investment approach to it, right? That's what really started the whole fascination with money and learning how to grow it, because for the first time in my life, I understood how money worked and how it was grown, really. So Bitcoin was that investment vehicle for me. It still continues to be an investment vehicle for me, and that has led to where I am today, right? Again, we're talking nearly a decade now of just understanding finance and um, wealth management, and growing it, and eventually leading to stumbling into John, and being a part of Wealth Group, which has really taken the internet by storm. So that's where we're at today. But it all started with that conversation we had on the steps of my parents' house, and that's what was the turning point for me, really.
You think like how many other people might have had a conversation with that and then was just like, let me just skip over Bitcoin and like look at what it did for you, right? Like you were a BTC guy, BTC Maxi, like that's what you got introduced to. John was my friend who's told me, hey, we're gonna like look into this, buy, at the time I grabbed LTC. Like Litecoin was my first coin I bought it at the top. I didn't even really, I kind of knew what Bitcoin was, but I didn't know how they were compatible or
Mhm.
how they layered up. And then I was like, dude, I can't get this from my wallet to here. I'm like, can you just buy it for me? So then he like showed me how to work
Mhm.
through buying it, transferring it, Coinbase transactions. Like that's what kind of got me into it. But it's funny how like there's the common theme is literally like, oh, a friend told me about it. Someone told me about this, and well, we're kind of from the same age group. Like that 2016 era. I really wasn't thinking about finances like that. Like we were still young, like we were hanging out.
Mhm.
So that opportunity, I didn't view it more so as like an investment, but more as like, all right, can I make quick money and then get out of here? And I made quick money, but I didn't get out of here because I gave a lot of it back, which is what I feel like a lot of people do. But with you, when we followed it, you've kind of always had that same structured game plan of like buying and holding,
Mhm.
buying and holding.
Mhm.
And I think that investment approach really suited you well because, I mean, look at where it has gotten you now. And I think having that mindset of making this like a long-term investment, you kind of skipped over, the banking stuff, looking at learning it that way and went the untraditional route, but it almost, like you said, explored and changed that whole dynamic for you for the better.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm like everybody else, right? In 2016, that's how I discovered the space, and like everybody, I got a bit carried away in the beginning as well, right? So I stuck to my daily investment strategy, but at the same time, naturally, like everybody, right? If you're new to finance, you're new to markets, you don't really understand um, hype and euphoria like that, right? So it was a time where a lot of people, myself included, were getting introduced to the space, and like everybody, I fell for a lot of the what you call them altcoins. Um,
I
Litecoin
love
was one of
all
them for me. Yeah, Litecoin was one of them for me, and if I understood that, Bitcoin was the gold of this ecosystem, then Litecoin's the silver, so I should get some of that as well. And for a little while, I think everybody experienced the same thing. For a little while, you felt like a genius, and then slowly but surely, it all ended up coming back to
crashing.
reality. And I learned a lot of things from that. for that small brief moment in time, I got a bit carried away with the investing, right? Again, because you continuously get rewarded for a good 3 4 months, you're gonna get really caught with your pants down at some point, right? So despite not touching, my daily Bitcoin buys, I did speculate further with money I did have, that I was willing, to play around with, and I got hurt on that for sure. One thing I learned, right, was, again, that was the first, I guess, real warning shot there, where I was, all the things I read, about Bitcoin and the warning signs that led and followed that, was kind of like the first really reality check, and it kind of just, if anything, it solidified my conviction, on the daily Bitcoin buys specifically, because again, I didn't lose much. I didn't lose much at the time, and like in retrospect, it wasn't much, but I did lose. I did lose in that
Yeah.
2018 bear market, and I learned a lot of hard lessons for sure. But yeah, I fell for that as well, right? It was new, it was exciting. I was getting involved in something brand new, but I learned a lot in that process, which um, was a tuition that was well worth it, really. Yeah,
Yeah, I think your gut punch is a little different because you kind of played the bigger one. You didn't really dive all in on altcoins.
that's it.
So you saw some gains,
Mhm.
maybe not like that massive, two, 300x off of a altcoin, but you experienced maybe, the more winning strategy because in the long run, your swings weren't as crazy. You were still able to buy. And like you said, the Bitcoin was gold. I thought of loading up on Litecoin because at that time, right? You don't know, like, oh, I
Mhm.
don't have 4K to buy one Bitcoin. Let me just spread out and get as many Litecoins as possible. Because even then, some people didn't comprehend that. No, you could still put, $2,000 on your investment and have a fourth of a Bitcoin at the time and still let that grow and mature.
Yep.
So even then, it was like a mind trip of being able to like study, learn, figure this out. Okay, let me just get more of something cheaper because I think that's going to do more X's on the return, you know?
Yep. Yep. And again, we were all, a bit of an experience a bit inexperienced, I should say, at that time, right? It was new to us. It was exciting, emerging industry. You thought you were on, the precipice of something that would change the world in that very moment. Again, I bought things I would never consider buying today, right? And
Yeah.
the worst part is like when you bought those things originally, you did make, like, I made a lot of money. I made a lot of money. It's the problem is like knowing when to call it, right? Knowing to when to walk away and to call it. I think that's a beginner's mistake. And yeah, it taught me a lot of lessons for the future. So in a way, it's a give and take, right? I got introduced to a space that I still work actively in today, but took some battle scars in the
Yeah.
process. Learned the hard way, which are things that everybody tells you if they've been here long enough, right? So it's a give and take. No
Nobody
regrets.
makes it to the top without getting a couple gut punches, a
Oh,
couple
for sure,
losses, a couple tuition fees,
for sure.
to get to that level. But I do recall something. So Rigo was actually literally one of like the first 10 or first like 8 members to join the original Telegram group prior to where we are now. How did you come across the TG group? Were you on X prior? How did you connect with John? Like, what lured you to the original WWG at the time? And then, like you had your conviction in Bitcoin. Like, how did you have your conviction in the group? Like, what did you see? What did you recognize?
So this is a fun story, because I remember, at the time, again, I had my full time career, right? So my full time career was taking up a lot of my time, and I troll Twitter a lot, or we call it X these days, but I used to troll Twitter like crazy, right? Always looking for new accounts, new people that were, good work ethic, but we're also hot. It had a hot hand in the sense that everything they touched seemed to have been working out. And that's where I guess at the time it was the algorithm or some sort of repost or retweet back then, that made me stumble onto John, and I took a look at his account, and I noticed he was at the time, if we compare today where he has 900,000 followers or something like that, at the time he had, I don't know, anywhere between 1,500 to 2,500, and he was just making moves. He was making moves, and I tried to backtest, or not backtest, but I tried to like do some reconnaissance on the calls he was making. I thought he was like, wow, he's got a hot hand right now, and I followed him around, and just from his public sharing stuff, I liked, I liked his tone, I liked his demeanor. Then he mentioned that he had a group himself, and I was like, well, you know what, this is going to be perfect. I don't have the time that I would like to have, really, to navigate the market. So having this guy in my back pocket here, sharing what he's looking at might do me some good. So at the time, again, it was like a grandfather fee, right? So in the sense that, like, today we're more like a subscription, but back then it was like a one time thing. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, screw this. Let's do it, right? And right from the start, um, like the activity and all the work he was putting in at the time, I realized that this group was growing bigger and bigger. And not only was it growing bigger and bigger, like, the reception from it was really, really positive. And it was at that moment in time where I realized, okay, I definitely have a bit more experience than a lot of people in this group. Maybe I could start lending a helping hand or sharing some ideas of my own, and from there it kind of snowballed into the position I have today, or my working relationship with John and myself is. A lot of people were just starting out in that group, and I've been there for a good 3-4 years now in that industry altogether, right? So I was ahead of a lot of things, and I had a good I like to think I had a good insight and good strategy of my own, and I was just sharing it in the chat. And I reached out to John one day, and I was like, "Look, I'm like, if ever you need help, I'm always here. I feel like I can answer a lot of the repetitive questions, and I feel like I can give some ideas of my own." And from there, at the time, John had a corner, and his corner was just like fitness and life tips and trade ideas
Yeah.
and emotional rants and stuff like it was like each little section, and he just one day just decided, I'm going to add you a section.
Who-
And that's where it all started, really. And since then, it's been over 5 years now. I haven't looked back. I still consider it one of the biggest opportunities in my lifetime. I pretty much I decided to help a good person, and in my opinion, John is, as much as I don't get to see him as much as you would, or people close to him would, he's grown to be one of my closest friends. And again, it's effortless to help someone with this sort of demeanor and nature, right? Again, it was one of the biggest breaks of my career, and it was meeting John, really, and deciding I could provide value to him, and that's where it all started, really. Yeah.
Well, to reiterate something that you said is John, like he really does have that comfort demeanor, even for someone of his stature, right?
Yeah.
Like people know he's a big boy, but he will literally give you the shirt off his back. If you're down bad, he'll help you out.
Yep.
If you're putting in that work and you're there and you're present, like, you know, he'll help you out. You
Hmm.
saw a chance to put your insights in, and like good thing you had the even confidence to ask that to do that. Because look at where you're at now, and you did have that you know structure, that mindset coming in. Because the common theme from a lot of people that I talk to is they always mention Rigo, they always mention the BTC buys. Like have made an impact for a long time on the group as well. So getting that corner, your growth, a lot of the people in the group working their way up, like from being a real life friend and then watching all of the developments, like I've come to see a lot of you guys grow throughout the group, and it's honestly one of the coolest things I get to do as like a best friend of John,
Hmm.
being in the group as a member, like getting to know you guys. So that's amazing, bro.
Yeah, it's again, I've been around since the start, so everybody that I've seen grow into what they are today is nothing short of amazing. And again, it's I call it the John effect, really, because again, it's his work ethic, right? It's this guy runs the group, and again, you're trying to keep up with him, really, and it's hard because again, when you have a work ethic like that and a drive to succeed, I mean, I don't know if it's something in the water in New York, but the work ethic from New Yorkers is just unmatched. And John, when you match that with a good demeanor, a strong work ethic with a good demeanor, and again, someone that's like truly in a position that puts himself, to help others get their step up, and means it too. It's not just for the sake of doing it, but he genuinely means it. It's a deadly combination in a very positive way, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah.
There is definitely something in the water over here. That New York hustle, it's in. But John has that drive. He's got that, like, that killer instinct. But he also attracts killers to the group, bro. You guys are those killers. Like you have your always on it. You do your streams. You've been following Powell forever. Like you calling
Mhm.
out the plays. You're kind of reading the markets before they come in. That comes with the time in, the experience. Putting in the work. So yeah, he's got the drive, but you know, it is the John effect. But you guys are matching his energy consistently, and
Mhm.
that's what I think makes WG such a powerhouse, and more than just like a call group. Like you're literally getting every type of insights from all traders all over the place who are successful.
Yeah, and I would say that's probably the group's biggest strength is the content involved, and not to mention just the content, the community. I would say the calls and the trade signals are probably the last thing on the list. I really do think it's when you put yourself in a mentality, or if you put yourself in a culture where the mentality is, to succeed, to work hard, to get up every day, and to continue to apply yourself, and not just one person, not just two people, but pretty much the whole network, including the members themselves. I mean, that's the recipe for a profitable trader. They need to be in an environment that is not only friendly but competitive, and not only competitive but I want to say the word is compassionate, because we've all suffered losses together, we've all had
Yeah,
big wins together, and a trader can get stuck in their own mind a lot, and a lot of the times they feel like whatever's happening to them or whatever they're experiencing is entirely personal, when really it's more common than you think.
yeah.
So I think this is where the group has its biggest strengths: is its community, its culture, and again, more importantly, it's content. It's extensive content into how these people you're following, or trying to learn from, step by step, how they get stuff done. I think that's where the group really stands out. Yeah, that's where I leave it with.
In this space, it can feel like there's so many people here, but you're totally alone and isolated, especially when things aren't going your way.
Hmm.
So having an avenue, even just to like do a quick vent
Yep.
in the group, and having not one, but maybe seven, eight people checking in on you, making sure you're okay, telling a similar story, reassuring that, hey, dude, you're not alone. Like we've
Hmm.
all been there. Just continue to stick with it. Like I think that goes way further in the group than anything else.
Yep, I agree.
So I asked my last guest a question, and I'm going to give that question to you. He said, what would you change about crypto if there was something that you could change about crypto?
That's um that's a tough question. I would say, if there's one thing I could change about crypto, wow.
Throwing you on the spot here, my bro.
I would say is it's more attention um, towards decentralized solutions. I think there's been a lot of foolery, and a lot of, I guess the word is, bad actors, um, deceiving, or very deceptive behaviors in the crypto space. And it's normal. It's new. It's innovative. People don't understand it. It's the wild west of the internet space, right? Where we're like in pretty much the Wild West era. I wish there was more focus, and I wish there was a deeper understanding towards decentralized solutions, because that's where I think most of the progress could be made. I still think crypto goes way beyond the scale of just solving the financial issues, but it could solve tons of issues, from data and confirmations of things that were otherwise done by humans can now be stored publicly on a blockchain without any tampering. Or I think just the better understanding on decentralized. Like, if there's one thing I could change, is you know focus
Yeah.
on less of the loony stuff, less on the idea that this place is a casino, and more focus on the fact that this technology, the underlying technology of what we're playing with here, can change the world, and provide efficiency in ways I don't think we thought were humanly possible at one point in time. So
I
um,
still think I think you're right with that. I still think a lot of people can't get past that point. They
mhm,
struggle to even have that, thought process, and a lot of it, stems from, I think they need to just believe in it too. Like they have to understand it, and then also believe in it, and then kind of get that control back into their own hands,
mhm.
and understanding it from that way.
Yep,
That was a tough question. Threw
it
it right at
was.
you,
It
brother.
was. It was a very tough one.
All right, so you've been around since the start with the group. How, like, were there any moments where you started to realize, wow, I'm actually like making an impact? Like, people are listening to me, like, they're understanding it, they're taking some of my knowledge. Like, did you have any of those moments throughout?
Oh, plenty of times. Pretty much the only reason why I still stick around is not because I see it either as like a mean of working. Or it not only keeps me in check, forces me to be better, but at the same time, the amount of people from day one, it's been like this. The messages you'll get about, people saying, "Hey, I applied your strategy. This is, my profitability over the past 30 days. I'm starting to see a massive improvement." Or, "Hey, man, I never used to understand markets whatsoever, but your approach has really stuck with me or resonated with me." That's something I hear very, very often, very, very frequently. And maybe it was more in the past because I guess there was more of a spotlight on the things I was doing, but nonetheless, from the very get go, it's always been like this. There's been a ton of people I've impacted, and it's one of the main reasons why I stick around, because again, it's at this point, what's the most rewarding thing for me is to take what I know and do my best to make sure other people know um, the same thing. And some people get it, some people won't. I think that's normal. If you put yourself in a position or role of a teacher, you're always going to have kids that won't listen in your class. And what's more important is to focus on the ones that do. And it's their time, right? So it's their prerogative to want to pay attention or not. But the ones that do are incredibly grateful for it, and they're very vocal about it as well. So I guess, yeah, I hear it all the time. And you know again, I've seen the progress. I've seen the progress. A lot of the, I won't say a lot of them, but a few of the traders that you have seen come and gone. Were once asking me questions privately, and today they are their own traders. They're their own traders. In many ways, they're probably more active than I am. So right there is all the proof I need, and it's
Yeah.
it's really the thing that keeps me going. So yeah.
Well, you got the recipe down, dude. I think you realize that like it's not just, for compensation or for work. Like you can tell the way you speak about things that you have that passion and you're a person of helping others. And there's nothing more grateful than having that ability. And you're pretty intentional in how you move and like you have pure intentions and you just want to see other people be equally as successful. And I think that's why so many people are drawn to you and take what you say with real words with real weight, man.
Yeah, and it's been an experience of a lifetime. From the streams to the posts to just engaging with members every day. It's probably my favorite thing to do. It's my favorite thing to do.
So I feel like you don't get enough credit for this, and we had to tag you in it the other day. But not too long ago, you had went viral for a video, 1 million plus views. Like, did you ever see like those daily purchases on BTC for that amount, or weekly dailies, monthly? Getting to this point now, like did you have like an inkling or like what made you stay so true to BTC and not maybe go for an early Solana or Ethereum Young or any of those other coins when you had the opportunity to really dive into those?
So again, it comes back to the moment I was introduced to it, and my ability to understand what it was trying to solve and what it was trying to do. And that really kind of set it in stone for me. Like it's did I ever expect it to get to this point? The answer is yes, but really, like in the back of my mind, that I think we'd actually ever get here. And you know, I I always felt, and I always told myself, if I'm probably onto something, it's most probably because I'm being either deceived or scammed. Because why would someone, like me, with no background in finance or any interest in money, finally decide, oh, I get this one? So like, there's always a question of doubt that creeps up, but at the same time, no, I truly believe it. Because again, when you read the white paper, when you read extensive material on the thing that you're buying, it just made more and more sense. Whereas if I read it on other things, and again, I've missed things like Ethereum when they were back at $20-40. But the truth is, I just didn't understand it the way I did with Bitcoin. So I felt like, if I can't understand it, I can't invest in it. And I guess that's why I continue to stick with the BDC buys, right? Because I've come across a ton of things, and some of these things have been considered trades, and they've done very well. But as far as like, no questions asked, doesn't matter what the price is, buy here. Think about it in 10 years from now. I've never stumbled upon something like that ever since. So it comes with again, it's give and takes. Did I expect to get here? The answer is yes, but really no. Could I have done differently, and maybe Bought things that were pretty much good things as well. The answer is yes, but I did it, right? It's
Yeah.
but it all comes down to what I was able to understand about it, and I guess that's really where I leave it at. I didn't expect to within 10 years to actually be at these numbers. I thought it would take a bit longer than that, honestly. Yeah.
Well, I feel like a lot of people who just jump into it, they don't really take that approach to kind of learn and understand more so than just buy and see what happens. So the fact that you took it upon yourself to do that extra bit of research, read the white paper, really dive into that early on, probably helps your decision making now because a lot of the stuff we do see popping up now, there's so many of them. So it's kind of hard to kind of pick and choose what might be a legit one, what might not be a legit token. Does this have real fundamentals, real values? So you stuck with one that was, honestly the king of it all, that changed the game, changed the dynamic, the whole layout of this space and structure, man. All right. I'm diving into a few more questions, and I'm going to hit you with something else right towards the end. So, what does your day-to-day trading like look now? Are you more spot buys? Do you dabble leverage? Do you go back and forth with each?
So, as a trader, you're meant to evolve, and by that I mean, you grow into a more sophisticated position. I mean, when you start off smaller, naturally, naturally the risk taking is a bit more gas, foot on the pedal type approach. You need to be a little bit more aggressive. You need to be a little bit more, I guess, loose. I guess the word is loose with what you're willing to take, what you're not willing to take. And assuming you do this right, the bigger you get, the less you have to move. So my daily trading approach, how it was when I first started, futures and pretty much derivatives in 2018, compared to how it is now, I'm much more of a spot approach player, less trades with larger size, just because that's what my portfolio permits me to do. Right, it's less about catching smaller moves all the time, and it's more about sticking to three big winners. Biannually or even by year. It's whatever the market gives me, right? It's very rare I'll borrow. It's very rare I'll borrow. So take leverage positions. It's very rare these days, unless the incentive's there, right? So unless I'm being paid an extensive amount of money to hold something that I don't think is either undervalued or overvalued. It's very rare. I'll take you know large borrowed positions when I can otherwise just spot play it. But to keep things interesting and to continue to develop and evolve, I also apply an intraday system. Right, I have an intraday system that looks to extract on very very volatile moves from a 24 within a 24-hour time frame. So it's either those trades are there or they're not. We'll go through periods where 2 weeks straight those trades are there 2-3 times a day, and then we'll go through periods where those trades aren't there for 2-3 times through 2-3 weeks at a time. So it's really I try to keep it interesting. I always try to grow. I try to start with a number. I try to run it up, see if my system's efficient or if it's underperforming. But when it comes to the serious play, like the serious game, like for the long term, like no, it's much more like spot plays and try not to move too much and only move when it's screaming in your face that risk to reward is very very valuable here, and that's my approach these days.
Such a lesson in being able to have that skill to like hold your hands, wait, monitor. Don't let your emotions get into it. Don't
Yeah,
try to like rush a play. Don't just jump into the newest thing just because it could go up. So I feel like you don't get there without putting in the time and the work that you did to be able to sit back and trust your gut, trust your instinct, your systems, and then also have you're a trader at heart too. So you got to have a little time where you're going to jump in that 24 hour window and look around, see if anything piques your interest, maybe check your systems. Does anything need to be updated, fine tuned? This isn't working. So I get that. Like, I appreciate that a lot because it's one of those lessons that I'm, a little struggling with is kind of like rushing something or, trying to jump into it because everyone else is now chatting about it. So being able to really be disciplined and true to that system, it's tough to do. And I'm sure you learned majority of that or fine tuning it, throughout your way in the group
yep.
from teaching and instructing and then even picking from what other people were talking about.
Yeah, it's a mix of first couple of years learning on my own, and then being with the group and having to, especially when you have to share ideas or share your outlooks, you really you really really hold yourself accountable for what you're considering and what you're not considering. And that, I want to say that helped a lot. I want to say that helped a lot because again, I've always after making the mistakes in the first cycle that I was a part of, I had a very very stoic approach moving forward, and unless the risk was there, and I'll give credit to some good mentors that were kind enough to help me with this learning process. Because again, I think most people learn what risk is or what it means to take a trade that's highly favorable once they're trading a bear market, and that's where I learned a lot, right? And it just poised me for the 2021 cycle. And again, I just felt that was easy mode. After that, it was fairly easy to apply risk, and for the potential reward, it was so in your face, where where otherwise it's been a bit more difficult these days. But yeah.
I think all bull run assassins learn everything in the bear market. And you've been around for a couple now to like really master that to then see, okay, this is where I'm at now. This is how I'm
Yeah.
moving. This is what's going to be.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to start with biggest loss, and then we're going to follow that up with your biggest win because I always like to end on a win. So, biggest loss, biggest lesson could have been from 2017 cycle, could it have been a recent one? What do we got?
Wow. Okay. Biggest loss. Can I say biggest? Does it have to be the biggest loss in terms of capital, or just the stupidest way to lose money ever? Can I
Ooh,
can
I
I can
didn't
I
think
do
about
this?
that.
Because
Let's
because
do
the
this.
biggest
Let's do the
loss,
stupidest way. So maybe that might help
yeah,
somebody else
because the
in the
biggest loss,
future.
it varies for people and what size they trade. But the stupidest loss I think I've ever done, I'll never forget this. I actually have two. I'll even share two with people. Was when I was new and not really understanding of how margin worked, or how leverage worked. And this was 2018. I was just getting introduced to derivatives. If I remember correctly, it's either between 2018 2019. I was using BitMEX at the time, and BitMEX had released XRP futures, right? So XRP futures, and I took I thought I took an isolated position, but I took a cross position. And again, I still made it really really safe. Like I did like a really really safe amount. The problem was, um, BitMEX back then is notorious for 30-40% wicks that come
Oh
out of
my God,
nowhere.
the Wix.
Yeah, and I got tagged to the cent like moments after I did it, and I was so set back by that. It was the stupidest. I don't even want to say it was the stupidest mistake. It was just the most ridiculous loss to have ever taken. At the time, that was the biggest loss in my career, because it reflected a decent amount of my portfolio at the time. Which again, if we're talking biggest losses, I consider it in percentages, and that wiped me out like pretty bad early on. And through I want to say it was through no fault of my own, but at the end of the day, we're always responsible and accountable.
Yeah, yeah.
And the second stupidest loss I've ever took was trying to buy BTC spot, or trying to use like dry ammo. So pretty much USD to pretty much buy a shit ton of spot. And instead of clicking BTC USD, I clicked BTC ST USD. And I realized that right away, and it ended up costing me like 6 to 10 grand just in transferring back to the other. All because I misclicked. All because I misclicked and I didn't double check. And like again, these are like the number is not relevant to me, but it's like the stupidest way to lose money. There used to be a time where 10 grand was unthinkable for me, and here I am, just because I clicked the wrong thing and bought, and now I have to switch back to over. I'm down 10 grand. It
Yeah.
was yeah. Those are the worst. Those are the worst.
Rushing it, and you think you get to this point where you're good, you're good, you're good. You could just
Oh
do it. You always want to double check,
yeah.
triple check, make sure it's the right. I mean, you hear nightmares of, wrong contract addresses. You send it to a different wallet address. But dude, let's just rewind really quick. That era of scam wicks, I feel like we don't get them as much, but there was a time period where it would just wick out of nowhere, and I've been liquidated more than enough times. Don't It is what it is. It's part of the game's tuition fees. But you go isolated. You don't know about cross. You got to learn cross isolated. That happens, and then a 60 or 30% wick out of nowhere. You just open your phone up. You see that the price is up,
Yep.
so now you're thinking, oh, I'm in profit. Oh, I'm golden. and then it's just like, oh, you have no trade going on. You look in there and it's wicked out.
Yep.
Like that was such a scary time period.
Yeah, that was when derivatives were brand new.
Yeah,
You know, perps were just getting listed for everything. And even in 2018, 2019, you didn't have anything. Like you really had BTC, ETH, and then in the rare case, XRP, maybe Tron
yeah,
and LTC. So again, I saw that and I was like, oh, I can finally perp trade XRP. Let me put a really responsible position here, but I'll stay cross. Why not? I'll stay cross.
yeah.
Um, and I remember now, you know, the more I recall about it, I had put a stop loss, but because it was so instant, you know,
Oh my God. Oh my
because the
God. I
book,
remember that.
yeah, because the book was cleared of all orders, it just didn't trigger my order, and it instead just hit my liquidation price to the T. So that's got to be my biggest trading mistake of all time. Even though I don't consider it my mistake, I like to think I did the precautions. It just goes to show that at any moment in the Wild West things could happen, and you
Anything.
know, had that been isolated, I would have just lost what I was willing to allocate to the position. But instead, because I did cross, I thought I was safe because of a stop, and that's, you know, yeah, that was the biggest drawdown in
Oh
my,
my God.
yeah,
The
by far.
non-triggered stops. That was a part of the Wix too. So
Yeah.
many times. I even remember John. He's like, dude, I don't know what happened. Like you're talking like really good traders. If this is happening to them, it could
Yeah.
happen to anybody.
It's
You
happened to all
know?
of us. It's happened to all of us. So again, like, you know, it's learning steps. It's
Yeah.
baby steps. You learn. You make mistakes, but I made sure it never happened again, and that's what's important.
All right. Let's win it now. Let's win it back. What was the biggest win aside from the daily BTCs? I know that.
Oh,
I know you must have had a euphoria trade where you were just like, okay, this is it. What do we got?
I got a number of them. But my two biggest. I'll give you two because I gave you two worst ones. I'll give you the two biggest ones I've ever had. The COVID 2020 crash was when BTC was roughly around $3,700, I think $3,300, $3,700. That is where I took my biggest borrowed position of all time, really. And I built that position all the way into 10K. And that eventually I deleveraged on the way up from 28,000 to 48,000. And again, that was a really large position. Funding was pretty much paying me the whole time, and this was like a really long trade. It was almost a year long. Um, that's got to be the trade that made me, really. That's got to be the trade that made me. And then I would say after that, my next biggest win came shortly after that, and I was getting Solana anywhere between $3 to $6. I decided to slam one Bitcoin worth at $3 to $6,
Wow.
and that is essentially evolved into 8.8 BTC, where I sold it for 45 $50. So one BTC into 8.8 BTC. That was my probably my best trade of all time. Um,
And that's
that
two
was
monumental
amazing.
spot trades. Well, one was leverage, right? The one on the way up, you were saying?
Both
Yeah.
were borrowed. Yeah,
Wow.
it was just too obvious at that point for me. So
Being able to hold through that and like just trust yourself, like that goes to show like where you built like that discipline, dude. Because a lot of traders they get too excited too early
mhm.
and close it out. Like that's amazing,
Yep.
bro.
And you know what,
Wow.
you know what's funny is that for Solana, if we know anything about that cycle, it went to like 250 that year, and I
Yeah.
sold at 45.50. I thought I was the smartest person on planet Earth, and then 2 weeks later, I just see it, you know, 2-3x even more than that. And you know, at the time, I thought I lost. At the time, I thought I lost, but you know,
Yeah.
enough time goes by, and I realized I 8x'd my portfolio really. So that's got to be my best trade of all time. Yeah, for sure.
If you're walking away in profit, this is just a clear announcement. You're winning. Like
Mhm.
you're never gonna time the market perfectly for the perfect exit. So if you're doing an 8x or a 2x or a 5x, I consider that a win. You know, you're never gonna time it. And if you're not giving anything back, that's even more kudos, you know?
Yep.
All right. New member to the group. They just entered. What's something that you tell them? Like, where do they start? How do they kind of get to a point where they say, "Hey, Rigo, I want to be like you"? Like, what kind of insights are you giving them?
First things first. Do you know risk management? The answer is no. Learn about risk management. Um, Second thing is, what do you look to accomplish here? The first thing I'll ask someone is, what do you look to accomplish here? Oh, I want to make I want to make $100,000 with my $1,000. I go, okay. Do you have a plan to make 2,000? And
Mm,
they'll usually just stop right there and they'll be like, well, I didn't think about that. I'm like, okay, so we're thinking way too ahead here. It's like, look what you want to accomplish first. You have a because it's overwhelming when you enter the group. There's just too many things for a new member to know what to focus on. The first and foremost, before you're going to dabble into markets, first thing I tell them, risk management. Understand what risk is because you're going to be using it every single day that you're here. Second of all, understand your goals. What do you look to accomplish here? What's your time frame? What are your expectations? Because a lot of people come in with unrealistic expectations. They don't want to put in the work. They don't. I tell them this all the time. It's like a doctor or someone that wants to become a doctor. They don't just go to med school for 2 months and then they're able to, operate without extensive experience and information. It's a whole tuition. Like you got to be willing to understand that, and most people don't. They come into this group and they think they could just follow and tag along, and it's just it's so much more than that. So I tell them to first and foremost understand your risk. Second of all, understand what you're trying to do here. Give yourself a time frame that is not unrealistic. Give yourself some wiggle room to allow yourself to learn. And then third of all is what kind of time do you have to dedicate to this, because it's gonna matter a lot who you follow or who you're trying to learn from if you don't have the time for it. So once I get all those three things, then I feel like I can help them a lot better. But because some people, they work very, very extensive jobs or very,
yeah,
very demanding jobs away from the screen, and for that reason they can't be looking at intraday traders. They need to be looking
yeah,
at a more long-term swing approach, something where candles are either 4 hours, one day, or even a weekly, and
yeah, yeah.
some of those are the most lucrative positions you can take, right? So yeah, these are the first things I usually ask a member. It's if they ask me to begin with, but these are the first things um, I look for in a member, and it helps me direct them better. But yeah, if I had anything to say, is try to tackle these three things before you learn anything at all. But yeah, that's what I
Guys,
would do.
guys, make sure you listen to that advice. This is coming from a seasoned vet, like someone that's not new to this, but very much true to this. So, risk management, understanding your goals, and then dedicating the correct amount of time to understand what type of trader you want to be. You got to have that down before you just jump right into it. All
Absolutely.
right. I've been doing this with all my guests. So now, if you had a mentor or someone in this space or a question that you might want to ask, like what would you ask or what would be your question that you could ask somebody? Could be anybody in this space.
Oh, anybody?
Well, a person or a question, if you had a chance, because I'm going to do this, I'm going to ask my next host, my next guest, what they want, what your question is. So shoot a question out. They're going to hear it first.
So okay, just so I understand this, if I had to ask a question to your next guest.
Yep.
Man, that's tough, dude. You put me
Yeah, I
on the
got two
spot with
good
these ones.
ones.
Anything. If I can ask them anything. Uh
Our boy Mouse, he asked what would you change about crypto? So that's why it was a very good question. So you could be any kind of challenge question, it could be a good one, whatever you got.
um wow. I guess I would say does it have to be crypto related or could this be a general question?
Make us a general question today.
Okay. If you knew what you knew now about the space you're involved in, if you could go back in time, would you start over and choose not to do it at all? Or would you double down on it?
Mm,
I guess that's a good one because a lot of people, I think, they get into this and realize it's after 4 or 5 years, maybe sometimes it's taken a toll on them, and maybe they were better off doing something else. And that's whether you're profitable or not profitable.
yeah.
It's a very taxing industry, and although the money is good when you got a working system, it takes a toll on you. So I wonder if anybody had the chance to go back and either double down on the career path they'd chosen or chose to walk away, would they do it? I'm curious. I guess that's a
That
maybe
is a great
something.
question though, because I feel like it's very open ended, and you know what there is a lot to it, because there's people that have been here for 4 or 5 years. were successful, lost it all and walked away, and they lost it all and got it back. So
Yeah,
who knows? Um, one last one before we wrap it up here.
go for it.
What would you tell the young Rigo who talked to his boy on his porch that day? What are you letting him know about crypto? What are you letting him know right now? What are you telling him to do?
I could go back in the past and speak to myself on the steps right now.
Right now, you got like a 10-second window to tell him something.
Okay. Whatever you're about to buy, moving forward, make sure you double that or triple that.
Empty all accounts.
That's it.
Empty
Make
everything
sure you
and just
double or
load
triple.
up.
That's it. That's the easiest thing. That was the easiest thing. Just buy way more
Oh
than you were
man.
anticipating. Like buy way
Right?
more. Yeah, yeah.
And oh, and never sell it either. Just
Never
fucking just
sell it.
hold on to it.
Never sell it. Hold on
Triple
to
the daily buys. Yeah.
it.
Just and then just throw your phone away after that. And just
And
make sure you got enough funds in your bank account.
yeah, yeah, and avoid Litecoin. Avoid Litecoin. Yeah.
Dang, I'm on the top of that. Oh man. All right. One final word to wrap up. What would you describe Wealth Group as a whole, as a community? What it's done for you? What could you give us a little insights? Not one word, just give us a little synopsis or how to describe the community itself.
For me at this point, it's become like like my digital family. I've worked with many people in that group at this point for over 5 years now. They've become great friends. Uh, people I speak with on a daily. The members, some have come, some have gone, some have stuck around the whole time. Again, these people, consider them, distant family members, but family members nonetheless. In many ways, if I had to describe Wealth Group, I would call it, a culture community that not only looks to strive and succeed, but to help one another. Right? It's not only a workshop. It's not only a work area, but it's also an area where a lot of people find common interests with one another outside of trading. Doesn't always have to be
Yeah.
trading. We have people in there that make friends along the way, and they share good ideas, and they end up talking to each other all the time. And I would just say it's a community of people with like-minded interests, and it's a place where everybody comes in the same day, looks to better themselves, and I above all, I think that's the most important. It's the most important for a trader. You cannot do it alone. I mean, there are people that have, but they get discouraged very quickly. And when you're sharing your stories, and when you're speaking with other people that are also real, going through it the same way, learning the same things, it just puts it into perspective how common that is. So, describing wealth group, I'm going to call it a more of a community than it is like a trade signal group. I would put it the furthest thing away from that. It's become more of a community. Um, an academy, really. I call it more of an academy
Mm,
these days.
it's
And
a great word for that.
yeah, like any academy, you meet friends along the way. Some of them, have different career paths. You meet great teachers that end up checking in on you and knowing your progress, and that's really how it is. Everybody graduates at their own time, right? So that's what I would say.
Well said, brother. It was perfectly worded. All right, guys. If you're new to the group, if you're just coming across this stream, make sure you tap in. Follow Rigo on X at Rego the Trader. If you're in the group and you're in the Discord, tap into his weekly streams. Check in his corner. Utilize the group fully. He's got so much wisdom there, so much knowledge. A true vet in this space. Rigo, brother, it was an absolute pleasure today chatting with you, kind of hearing your story, bro. We're gonna do this again in the future. I enjoyed this conversation very much. Do you have anything you want to wrap up today with, brother?
I'll just say likewise as well. I thought we had a really good conversation.
Yeah,
Learned a lot about one another, and I enjoy doing these things. So again, thank you for having me on. Excellent host, by the way. Excellent host. Very
appreciate you,
very
brother.
very insightful questions, and some pretty difficult, but nonetheless leads to an interesting conversation. So thank you for that.
Well, like any veteran, you walked through that, dude, and you held it greatly. So I appreciate your time and your words, man. We'll catch up soon.
Awesome. Take care.
Later, brother.
Bye, guys.